Hey guys, a couple of years ago, I did the Nursepreneur conference that was supposed to be held in person, but because of COVID, everything went online. As a result, we had some great sessions and we were able to include people from across the globe. So I'm actually going to start opening up this series to you here in the NurseMinder Nation. What you're going to see next is the interviews that I held with these really amazing, talented nurses who are forging their own way into the world of entrepreneurship, creating their own business, using the tools that they've learned through nursing to expand into areas that you may not have considered. So why am I sharing this with you? Well, there's a few reasons. I know that today's workplace is exhausted, burnt out, frustrated, and they also want to honor all of the training that they did in their many years of schooling to become a nurse. With that, I'm going to share with you the interviews from 2020, just when the pandemic hit, but also in the description box below, I want you to follow up with their story and see where they've transitioned to or how they've expanded or how they're growing their ever present entrepreneurial journey. And so you're going to see a series of nursepreneur interviews so you can see, listen, and learn from them, and myself included. And then if you'd like more information, you can head on over to that website. Enjoy this interview. All right, welcome back to this session of your Nursepreneur Conference. We are talking today with Shweta Cunningham, an RN who is originally from a place I can't pronounce very well. Mauritius? Did I get it right?
Mauritius. You got it right. It's Mauritius.
An island located in the Indian Ocean. Now, she's been working in the field of nursing and psychiatric nursing for quite a few years before immigrating to Canada in 2009. Over 15 years experience in the mental health field, and she's worked with a variety of different populations and in a variety of different departments. She began her entrepreneurial journey when she was very young, helping her father in various business adventures. She is passionate about mental health, and she founded Rapid Action Nurses, and she's here today to talk with us about her journey. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the conference.
Thank you, Tammy. It's
so
lovely to be here.
Yeah, I'm really glad to have you here too, because you represent a particular population of nurses who maybe don't even realize that this is possible for them. And so I thought we could just start by you sharing a little bit about your business and what your population is.
Yeah. So the business is called Rapid Action Nurses, and it's all about providing in-home service with a focus with mental health, really, because that's where my passion is. And what we kind of found is, whenever people have some mental health conditions, say, for example, depression or anxiety, it's very hard for them to come out of the home. Right. And so we thought about getting it a bit more accessible and more flexible service. So going where the people need us to be. Right, that's where we like to start. And part of it, it's also we offer mobile injections. So if there is any injections that you need, IM or sub-Q injections, we can go in your home and do that as well. And so counseling and a little bit of home care service. So if somebody's really struggling and keeping their house is tidy, we don't mind doing that. So whatever it is to help you get better and recover, basically.
Did it start with those three services, or did you really hone in on one particular service when you started?
Yeah. So when I initially started, I started with the injection, and the injection was so new. So we just wanted to kind of add a little bit buffer around it as well, so that people start getting accustomed to what it is. And the counseling, the combination of the nursing skill as well as the counseling skill is what people were looking more. So that is what kind of people find more beneficial.
And how did you find your target market being mental health patients, or not patients, people living with mental health illnesses in particular? And you identified a really important need that it's hard for them to come out and get the services that they need. So that's a massive gap you honed in on. But how did you find them and let them know that you were in fact there to service them?
Well, to be honest, it kind of was a bit struggle because business was, even though I knew it was my dad that was always leading, so I didn't ever really led my own thing. So starting out like that, it took me quite a while to really figure it out. And honestly, it's still changing, right? So for example, somebody who is, say for example, somebody who is working, they're quite independent, they don't have any family here, and suddenly, they are really struggling. Right? If they had to go through the usual path, they will have to wait for a while before they get somebody. So the target area was more so for people who are already quite independent, and that just needed a little bit more support in time of their crisis. So for example, if you even think, the business really started after I had kids. I'm by myself here with my husband, and I have two beautiful kids. And having kids and put you in a different life stage. Let's just put it that way, right? So things that you never thought you would struggle with, you start struggling with. I missed having a family support. I missed having parents close to me that will help out with the kids. And I thought, you know what? How many women is in the same situation like me, right? And where would they go to? Like if you go to public health has a very different mandate, right? Even though they do look after your mental health, it's not like you can say, okay, keep coming, I still need you, right? Like many big organizations. So I thought about creating something that would be more accessible and flexible based on the person's need. So for example, if if we have a woman that is struggling with postpartum depression and has more than one kid, and this been ongoing, and say if they had, I don't know, depression or schizophrenia on top of it, where does she go? We want to keep mom and baby together. And working in England, I worked in a mother and baby unit, and that was the whole purpose of it. So what I did was create a business that came from knowledge and past experience, basically.
Yeah, it sounded like you were needing a service, maybe not because you were struggling with the mental illness, but because you were finding that there was this impact being a
Yes.
mom with kids and a family and a nurse, that there was still a
Yes.
need that you were needing to have filled,
Yes.
and then your business is born.
Yeah. And what I also thought was, if there is already moms that are struggling with their mental health, and let's be mindful about that, it's 1 in 5 people can struggle with mental health, regardless of race, regardless of socioeconomic background, right? And it can be me, it can be anybody. So whenever you kind of think about that, then that kind of made me realize that there was definitely more of a need to make something that is more person-centered, right? And I've always been very passionate about what I do, and I still love what I do. So I thought about, let's just do something, whatever that person needs, let's go with it, let's be flexible with it, right? And so we offer very individual care, so it's based on need.
That's amazing. So I don't mind sharing. A lot of people know that I struggled with mental health because I was bullied in the workplace several years ago and spent 4 years trying to recover and figure my way out of that. And I think
Mhm.
back as you're sharing that, I'm thinking back to how I was isolating because I was fearful. Like I didn't want to
Yes.
leave. And in fact, my pharmacist brought my medications to my house because I just didn't have the ability to get out. So it sounds like
Mhm.
this is a real significant need in the community. So I think I'm really
Mhm.
thankful that you found that gap and you stepped in.
Well, thank you. Yes, and you pointed quite right, right? Whenever we start struggling, the stigma of mental health is very present, right? And we start isolating, and that's not entirely a good thing. But again, we need to be, I think sometime we need to really kind of be mindful where we put our trust in and in whom. Because even though we want to believe everybody's here to help us, well, some may not have the ability and they cannot, right? Not that they don't want to. We need to kind of differentiate that. And the reason why it's good to go to a professional is because then at least you're getting the care that you need and the quality that you need. Your family and your friends are going to be there, but eventually they will get tired, they will get burnt out, and that's just a normal thing. It happens to us as well, right?
Mhm.
And I struggled with burnt out a while ago, and that was the first time in my career, actually, and that happened 2-3 years ago. And it was just because I was in a different stage of life. Like I had kids, I could not keep up with the shift work, and even though I loved the job, right? But even just being there, initially I did not realize I was burnt out. It took me time to realize I was burnt out. And by the time I realized that, I thought, okay, what am I going to do here? And then you need to look at options. But to be able to problem solve that, you need to have some clarity and insight, right? And that's where when you talk to somebody who's professional, they're able to guide you through that process.
Yeah, you hit on two important pieces there. One was trust, and the other was recognizing the signs.
Mhm.
And I'll share again as we go through this because I know there'll be others watching this who are thinking, oh my gosh, that might be me. So I didn't
Mhm.
recognize for a very long time that I was suffering as a result of my workplace environment. And two, once I did recognize it, I started to not trust anybody. And
Mhm.
even the healthcare professionals who were assigned to me, I didn't feel like I could trust them. So I think the service you're providing, had I known you were available to come in and just talk with me and help me through things or whatever that is you would provide, as you said, you're flexible. that would have been an external resource. And I think that's such an important piece, is that it's not tied to the business. It's not tied to your family. It's somebody external that can actually help you be objective with things.
That's right.
I think that's a huge thing when it comes to people who are suffering, is that trust piece. So, so it sounds like what motivated you to start your business was the fact that you yourself had identified a need.
Yeah, I think, I started thinking about it a long time ago before I actually started it. Like, confidence is a big thing. You need to have the confidence and belief that you can do it. So even though you start with the idea, like I toyed with it for a while and I didn't quite know what I wanted to do, but I know that I wanted to do something different. Because I know the quality of service I can provide and the vision I have and what type of the team that I can build. And it was mostly to come from a self-care approach, being able to take care of yourself, being able to take care of your team, being able to provide that care to your patients. So all of that was what I kind of was thinking, but I didn't quite know what I wanted to do until I think maybe it took me about a year, 2 years. Then a friend of mine came up with an idea. She was like, Shweta, you know what? There is, I know this person, she's doing injections at home. I was like, what? Really? And so we both kind of wanted to do that. We wanted to try that out. And, but unfortunately at the time, whenever we started together, she was going through some personal challenges and was not able to commit to it. So then I decided to kind of go along with it by myself. But I really missed having somebody else by my side to give me that, yes, we are going to do it. This is, you need that
Absolutely.
support. And like I said, my daughter, I think my daughter was like only a few months old. She was about six months old at the time. She is going to be 4 years old now. And so I really needed somebody else who was on the same page with me, understood where we were going and stuff like that. So, but you know what? I found other ways to get the support. I actually went to a launch on networking event and came across Futurepreneur. And that's how I connected with them, and they were very supportive. And so they helped me come up with a business plan, which was completely new. Never made a business plan in my life. Quite challenging, I have to say. Completely different skill. And you had to come up with a lot of details. They were very patient with me, and they reviewed the business plan. We did market research as well to ensure. And again, the in-home injection is a very unique niche. It doesn't exist in Edmonton, right? So there's not many competition, and so with that, so it's still, whenever you're trying to create something new, you have to be patient with it. Patience is another side of owning a business, to be honest.
Yeah. So I am thinking of the day, like I remember the day I decided I was going to go back into business. I've kind of dabbled with entrepreneurship my whole life, had these little businesses along the way, but this one in particular, I remember the day where I'm like, I'm going to do it. And you'd mentioned that you kind of decided, I'm just going to go for it. I don't have that partner anymore to help me and cheer me on. And you're right, we all need that. Because it can be lonely and hard, and it takes a long time when you don't have a mentor.
Yeah.
And so we actually just talked about Futurepreneur yesterday when I spoke with Matt from Business Link. So I'm really happy to hear that you were able to connect in on that.
I actually work with Matt.
Oh, do you?
I did, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I love him.
Yeah, I did work with him. I seen his picture on your website. I was like, there we go again.
Yeah, well, he's with Business Links now. So that's amazing. But do you remember that day, that moment where you're just like, I'm just going to go for it? And can you paint what that thought, that feeling, that day would look like for you?
It was scary. That day was scary. And it was a little bit up and down because at the time I was working full time and I had my kids. So I was squeezing whatever little bit of energy that I had in me. So it wasn't any specific day. I can't remember it, but I just remember that it took a lot of time for me to come up with it because I had to research. I had to put a lot of more thoughts into it. And with the details that they were looking for, it challenged me. It challenged me to really think about it. But I can tell you the day I finished, I was so happy with it. I was so happy with it. It took me quite a few months to finish it because it went back and forth between me and Futurepreneur to kind of help with it. And I think yeah, it was a futurepreneur business link, maybe because I work with both of them, so I'm kind of confusing them, I think, but yeah.
Yeah, both great services for people who are starting out.
And honestly, they are so supportive, even though they don't know your field that you're working on, but they actually try to help you with whatever knowledge they have.
Hmm. I know when I talked to Matt, I'm like, where were you 3 years ago? I didn't even know they existed. I just jumped in and started to move ahead and create stuff and call people. And
Wow,
I did it the
that's
hard
very
way.
brave. Yeah, that's really brave. But you know, even just kind of making your first call. I remember making my first call. I was like, oh my goodness, I was so scared. It took me it took me quite a while to just get myself to even dial the number. I don't know how you felt, but I know I was very nervous.
Oh
I was
yeah. Yeah. Like you have to have your elevator pitch so you can explain what your purpose is and what they're going to get from talking to you. Yeah, that's
right.
challenging.
Yeah. And then you go through that. And I think that the important thing that we need to remember is, regardless of whatever the outcome is, you know, you need to kind of praise yourself for doing that,
Hmm.
because it is a challenge and you overcame it.
Hmm.
So if you don't praise yourself, then why are we looking for recognition from somebody else that don't really understand what you just went through to even do that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I would love for this Nursepreneur conference, just as an aside, it's been a dream of mine to, like, as the years grow, that this becomes so big that we can actually give awards at the conference for
Mm-hmm.
nursepreneurs who have, whatever the benchmarks might be, but that we can actually make it an awards and a celebration, because as an entrepreneur, there's nobody there to pat your back.
No,
And I think
no,
we need that to keep us motivated and just to celebrate.
I agree with you. And you know, because obviously we all have our talents and we all have our certain skills. Being nurses, we have a specific skill, right? Business is a complete different animal, let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And you need to learn those things. So one person that I was working with, and we were trying to kind of finalize things in terms of them hiring my service. And I love what she said to me. Unfortunately, it fell through because of funding issues, and they are a non-for-profit organization. And whenever she told me, you know, unfortunately, we will not be going with your service, she said to me, Shweta, I'm not saying no. All I'm saying is not yet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I love the way she said not yet.
Yes.
And that's something that I've kept in my mind since then. You know, whenever I say something, it's just not yet.
Mm-hmm. It's a
Because
beautiful
you
way to
can't
phrase
be
it.
good. Absolutely, you know, because you can't be good at absolutely everything. Some of it you have to work harder
Yeah.
to get there.
Yeah. So you actually have quite a large area that you serve. How did you determine what your boundaries of your business would be? Because it's not just Edmonton. You go outside of those boundaries.
Yes. So what I decided, I actually sat down and looked at the cost of gas and traveling costs, basically, right? And time, and that's how I decided it, because I wanted it to be accessible to people. And you know, Edmonton City is awesome. We have quite a lot of service already in the city, but the people that don't have it are the people who are in rural communities. And like I said earlier, you know, it's all about accessibility and flexibility with the business. So that's how I decided. It was to just look at time cost, traveling cost, and whether it was feasible
Mhm.
as a business to do that.
Do you want to share just how broad your range is? Like, I know you've got some parameters that you had shared with me before.
I am traveling, say for about an hour of Edmonton.
Edmonton. Okay. Yeah, and I think that's good to know for those who are considering a business that's going to require travel, that those are some
Yeah.
of the elements that you had to consider to put into your metrics to find out if it was going to be valuable for you and
Yeah.
profitable. Because we're
Yeah.
not in the business to lose money as much as we want to serve people, and we also
Mhm.
need to serve ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is to be transparent with your clients as well, right? And whenever I'm traveling, I'm letting my client know there is a mileage cost to this outside of the city. And, you know, as long as you're transparent and you're honest about what's happening, and people are expecting what you see on your, uh, on your what's quote invoices, thank you, on your invoices,
Thanks, Heather.
uh, then it's not a surprise, right?
Mhm.
And so being transparent about what the cost is important.
So speaking of cost, just because we're talking about that now, then how do you bill? Is this obviously a fee for service, I would imagine.
Yes.
Do they pay ahead of time at the moment? Do you accept payments later?
So what I've done is I can't remember exactly where I read it, but somewhere while I was doing my research in terms of payment, what is legal. And I think at the time when I read it, it was my understanding of it was that it was not legal for somebody to pay for something they haven't received yet, you
Mhm.
know? So especially in the service industry. So then what I thought was, how about a retainer instead? Because then that still cover me for my no cost,
Yeah.
no show sessions, right? Because at the end of the day, you're still making time for that person, and if they no show, is that's your time. You can't do nothing else with that. So I decided to have a retainer fee, and so the retainer fee is something that I decided to go with to cover my time if ever that happened, or if ever I had to travel
Mhm.
outside and they still no showed, right?
Mhm. And
And
then
that so
do they
what I
pay
did.
on site when you deliver the service, or do you bill them and get payment later?
So what I actually do both. So depending on if it's a new customer, I usually like to get paid until I build that trust that I know that they will pay me, right? So I use Square for that. That you can just take the payment on your phone.
Yeah.
And for the retainer, I usually do it after. So what I like to do is offer a free consultation to people to see whether they see the benefit of this service. I like people to commit to and know what they're getting, right?
Mhm.
So having a conversation with them, it's important. And after they agree for the service, then I send them an invoice or a link, and they can make payment at the time of booking, even on the website.
Mhm. That's awesome. Do you have many that default on their payment?
No,
No.
actually, I've been
No.
lucky that no.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want nursepreneurs to know that I've never had anybody default on payment to me either. But it can happen, I suppose. I just wanted to check in and let others know that we can be successful.
We can be, and I think again, you need to really think about who you're approaching, right? Like for example, this business, obviously it's not going to be somebody with lower income, right? It's something that would be in the mid-range, right? And so you need to really know your customer,
Hmm. Yes.
right?
Do you also get contracts in? So you'd mentioned a nonprofit earlier. Are you tapped into like Alberta Health Services where you can bid for contracts and things like that?
I've thought about it, to be honest, Tammy, but chose not to go that way. The reason being is I like to have flexibility
Hmm.
with my clients. I like to know that I'm able to provide what they need when they need it. So if I find, my understanding with Alberta Health Services is, especially in the home care setting, is that people were time limited as to how much time they could spend with certain specific tasks.
Mm.
And I'm moving away from task orientated. It's not about task, it's about providing a service. Let's just say, for example, what I kind of learned, I might be wrong, I might be right, I don't know, I'm not going to say it's definitely for sure, but what I kind of heard was that home care services staff were being asked that they can only provide, say, if somebody for shower, help with shower for, I don't know, 10-15 minutes, whatever it was, right? Now, I'm a person that love my shower for 30 minutes. If I'm in my old age, you're going to tell me I'm going to have my shower for 15 minutes, that's going to be a problem for me. Do you know? That's my self-care, that's my mental well-being.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give people flexibility, what they need when they need it. So I kind of choose not, even though the money will be awesome, I choose not to go towards that way.
But yeah, that's an important thing for entrepreneurs to know. Like just because there is an opportunity doesn't mean it's a fit for you.
That's right.
And
And you have to really remember, what's your mission, what's your vision, right? And stick to those.
yeah, because not all money is good money. If it's going to cause you to feel like you're working against your values and your focus is relationship and spending time and giving flexibility, and if that's going to go against it, then that money's not going to make you feel fulfilled. It's just going to make you feel like you can't live into your values.
Exactly. And I can tell you, I remember feeling awesome. I still remember that day, and he was my first client, and I remember that at the end of our time together, he was better. He met his goal, And it felt so awesome to know that I was able to help somebody through their journey to achieve what they were looking to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an amazing feeling. You can't, and that's what keeps you going, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll share something. Well, I was gonna say, I just reflected today. It's been 3 years since I've been doing just videos on YouTube as one of my ways to help people. And I
Mm-hmm.
can't believe how fast that's gone because I do it because I love it, right? I'm like, wow, 3 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So when you're enjoying things, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. That's right.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna look at some of these questions here because I know you've mentioned a few of the answers already. What roadblocks did you come up against as you were starting to, I know you were working on that business plan. Once you started to implement and find your way, what kind of
Mm-hmm.
roadblocks did you come up against?
Well, I'll tell you a mental one is whenever you get your first rejection, it's kind of hard to work around that, you know?
Yeah.
And so I had to kind of pep talk myself out of it. It's okay, right? Yeah, it's a learning thing. Sales is not my biggest thing. Right. So I had to learn, like I started reading. So whatever barriers I had, so definitely, rejection was one of it. It was a big thing. And as entrepreneurs, we have a lot of setbacks, and that can definitely affect our mental health. And I can tell you there's days where I've decided to take a break from it because I just needed time to kind of get myself together, you know? Rejection is your first nose, right? Or you really think something's going to work out, you will get that contract at the end, and then something happened and you just don't get it, right? So that was some of it. And marketing is one of the barriers I found. Like even, though you think you know what your customer is, you don't really know. You still have to revise that
They have to
because,
validate it.
yeah, right. And you just keep going. And that was my barriers. I think it was mainly to do with how I perceive things,
Mm-hmm.
right? So no matter what it was, like even a rejection is still a learning curve because you're learning what's kind of worked, what's not worked, right?
Yeah. And so once you were able to get over those, did you,
Yeah,
I'm wondering, did you still work full time while you were building your business or did you jump
I
right
was. No, I
Wow.
was still working full time. I was still, because like having a family, having kids, you need to make sure that they have the security, right? And at the time, I was still kind of experimenting, let's just put it that way then. And it didn't make sense to just jump ship straight away there. So I was working full time while building it.
Mm-hmm. And how long did it take before you transitioned? Did you go all in or did you go down part-time in your business or sorry, part-time at work and then part-time business? Talk about that
Yeah.
transition.
Yeah. So so obviously working full time, it was pretty tough to give time to it, as well as making sure your family is not, you're also giving time to your family. So with time, I said to my husband, I think I will need to go part time. I need to devote more time to this if I want to see, so that if I want to see it be more successful and where I want to see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you only have so much energy in a day. At one point, I was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and trying to make sure that everything was done before I was leaving for work. And I sustained that for a little while, but it's not a long-term plan to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's just not feasible.
Yeah.
So knowing your limits and knowing how to navigate that is important so that you're not depleting yourself and then, you don't have nothing left.
Yeah. So you did a slow transition.
I
'Cause
did a slow
You're
transition.
full-time in your business now.
No, I'm still working towards it. I have a team right now that's working with me. So what I've decided to do is kind of keep my feet in part-time work as well and doing this and then delegating the job to my team.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you have grown.
Yes.
And it's nice to get a bit of balance there too.
Yeah. And, I like to stay current as well. So there will be the transition to full-time at some point, but when would that be? I don't know right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would imagine that having your feet still in the, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday kind of job, not that's what you have, but just that you're working as an employee somewhere, that would still be an opportunity for networking and to share your business and to continue to advertise and market for really low money and no money.
Yes, that's true. You can still do that, but you still need to be very mindful of conflict of interest, right?
Mhm.
Depending where you're working, where you're at, who you're with, you need to know your the policies around conflict of interest for sure.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, so let's just see. How about licensing, insurance, all those business pieces? Did you get that information when you worked with Futurepreneur, or did you already kind of know about that?
No, I didn't know about it. I think I Googled a lot of things, to be honest. And I came across Canadian Nurses Protective Services and contacted them and let them know what I was doing. Or
Mhm.
maybe I know I talked to Connor as well at the time. So I don't know exactly how I came across the NPS. I think it was through Google, but maybe it could have been through Connor as well.
Yeah.
And so they gave me information about how I could go about with insurance and what I needed. And Connor was helpful as well to give me information as to how to go self-employed in that direction.
Yeah, there's a
And
lot of work there.
yeah, and I also contacted City of Edmonton to know in terms of licensing what I needed to do. So I did, I think it was part of the doing the business plan that helped me to kind of really think what I needed to do.
hmm Do you have to have a business license for all the different municipalities you go to?
I have no, actually, doing this line of work, I don't actually need a license through the City of Edmonton, and so you don't need that part, but you definitely need your insurance
Yes.
liability.
Yeah. All right. So it sounds like your plan was kind of half known to you when you started. You kind of listened to the market and identified. You started with the injections because you knew that that was something people were doing before. So you knew there was a market. You just had to find it. And then from that, you started to hear what their real needs were, and your business kind of morphed as a result.
Yes.
Is that about right?
Yeah. And the thing is, mental health, I always wanted to include something with mental health. And when I was looking at the injection, it was also to do with the antipsychotic injections, right?
hmm
And so I was thinking, why would you go to a GP's office, wait for 15, even 20, 30 minutes to receive an injection whenever you can sit at home or even get your injection at work, right? And make that more flexible. And so you don't have to take time off because, let's just face it, say if somebody who's already a business owner and struggling with their mental health, they're already juggling so many hats. Now they have to take time away from their business, which is the money making time, to go and sit in a doctor's office for 30 minutes. Took them 10 minutes to get there, depending on traffic, probably 45 minutes,
Yeah.
right? And so it takes a lot of time away. Whenever you can actually call somebody and say, hey, right, I need my injection, this is the due date, we'll go and pick it up at your pharmacy and give it to you.
Oh, so you
And
pick it up as well?
yeah.
I was just going
And
to ask that next. It's like you're
yeah.
reading my mind.
And and you didn't take any time away from your family or from your time from work. And again, going back to me being a mom, when I transitioned from one child to two child, my goodness, it takes a while to get through that door whenever you have an appointment. And I thought, wow, if somebody was coming to my home and say, hey, I'm here to look after you and whatever you need, well,
Yeah.
I would say yes.
Like I could sigh when you say that, just thinking about, I wouldn't have to get dressed, my kids dressed, hurdle them into the car, navigate the traffic, find a parking spot, get the kids out of the car. Like there's so much stress just involved with that you just eliminate.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. Okay, so we already talked about kind of how long it took you to put your plan into action, and it's still evolving and it's still a process. What would be some of the top things you would like to share with the audience? I know mental health is one of your primary passions. Mental health and
Um,
business and entrepreneurs.
yeah, I think the three things that I would like to kind of say is do your market research well, know what you're getting into, be prepared, right? If you're doing something new, it takes time for it to for people to be accustomed to it, because if they are not used to it, It's going to take time for people to get used to it and understand where you're coming from. So do your market research well and be patient with yourself, and definitely surround yourself with support. That's very important, so that if ever you're feeling low or you're feeling stressed out, or you don't, you just don't know which direction you're going with the business, there's somebody there to support you in that line. And take care of yourself, like making sure you're taking care of yourself. Yes, business is very important. You need to can you not do that?
It's all good. It's all good. I might just leave that in there for the comedic effect. Hi, hus, or I can take it out.
Sure. You can go ahead, do it. Everybody's tying their kids up and husband up while they're doing
I know.
it. So go ahead. Taking care of yourself, because you can lose yourself in the business and forget that you came first before the business came, right? So you need to really take good care of yourself, making sure you're attending to your basic needs, and making sure you're absolutely, and your social well-being and your mental health well-being, all of that is also part of you, because if you crumble, the business crumble, right?
And for most entrepreneurs, their business is in their home. Right?
Right.
I get up, I stumble to the computer, I sit in my PJs for a couple hours before I go have breakfast. And it's so easy to be drawn into that room or into that business. It's always there for you. So what are some of the things you do for self-care to help give yourself space between business and life?
Say if I'm at home, right, even just going to the window and just looking outside and taking some deep breath, that's important. Meditation is a big thing for me. I like to meditate quite regularly, at least for an hour. I try to do it daily, but sometimes it doesn't happen. But every other day, whatever I can go and be easy with myself, right? Because being an entrepreneur, we have quite a high expectation of ourselves and achievement, to be honest. So if you're setting a goal, it doesn't happen, just tell yourself it's okay. You can restart tomorrow, right? So adjusting your expectation of yourself. My believe it or not, my big thing is I love to sit in a candlelit bubble bath watching a movie. That's my self-care. And so it depends on my mood, depends on what I do, but I try to do something different every day. Sometimes I will just watch a funny video on YouTube, just laugh, keep in touch by phone with friends and families. Praying is another one for me. That's very important. Playing with my kids, being mindful with where I am, with who I am, right? Because sometimes you can be in a group of people and still feel lonely because you're not present. You're thinking about something in the past or future, or being worried. So being mindful is also important. So there's many different things that I do on a regular basis to take care of me.
Yeah, I think that's just nice to share, because we know entrepreneurs, I mean, it's the hardest job you ever have, but it's the most rewarding job you'll ever have at the same time.
Absolutely.
Because you're serving the people you want to serve in the timelines that you feel are appropriate, and not being pressured by somebody else to be a production line, but putting yourself in the priority. Like I have to schedule myself in my calendar, otherwise I don't take time.
Yeah. No, it's true though. I have it. I actually have date with myself every month. I have it in my reminder. So I get a reminder to say, okay, date with myself is coming up, and I just go away and have a date with myself.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I want to just kind of take a step back. I forgot to ask you a question about